Hey there, everybody. I'm Chris Charbonneau, Associate Publisher for SpinSheet Magazine, and with me is Molly Winans, the editor of SpinSheet Magazine. Hi, Molly.
Hi, Sharp. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to the SpinSheet Happy Hour.
Yeah,
The last time we did this, it wasn't so dark.
I know.
And now I'm like in the glow of the iPad,
Yeah,
Here
it's
we are. Wintertime on the Chesapeake.
exactly. What are we talking about today?
We have a couple of guys from Quantum Sales on tonight, and we are going to talk about how to go faster on your boat. So some sail trim stuff and some crew stuff, and what are the best teams doing? What are maybe the not so best teams doing? And some good information. So there should be lots of opportunities to ask questions.
Very cool. So, folks, ask some questions in the comment section, and I'll try and get them up there. Before we bring our guests on, I've got to do the obligatory thank you to Mount Gay for sponsoring yet another episode of the SpinSheet Happy Hour. So thank you, Mount Gay. So let's bring on our guests. Hey, guys.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Jason, hi, Andrew.
Hey, guys, how we doing?
We're doing great.
This is the first time for Andrew on the SpinSheet Happy Hour, but Jason is a repeat guest. We don't remember exactly when he was on, but we think it might have been during lockdown.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so it's good to have you back. And
Thank
Andrew,
you.
it's good to have you with us. What are you guys drinking?
What are we drinking?
Yeah.
I've actually got a classic Mount Gay ginger.
Nice.
Nice.
Winner.
I'm having a refreshing gin and tonic.
Very good.
It's kind of a summer drink, but hey, thanks for joining the happy hour. What are you drinking over there from the SpinSheet World headquarters, Sharp?
I too am having the Mount Gay and ginger. I told you guys before we got started, SpinSheet always has a ready supply of Mount Gay, and this is actually the XO. Don't even need a mixer really, so I probably ruined it. But anyway, it's delicious.
Yeah.
So very good. Well, let's do a little cheers. This is the hard part. You have to try and find the corner. There you go. Oh,
yeah.
Cheers, everybody.
That's it for first timers. You guys are champs. I forgot to tell you what I was drinking. I'm drinking tea, but I did put a little Mount Gay and a little bit of honey in there.
Perfect.
Just
I'm
like
a
you
little
do at
raspy,
the
got
office.
a little cold thing going on. So
Very
kind of an
good.
old-fashioned cure.
All right. I'm disappearing. I will see you guys.
Go on.
Oh, well, he disappeared and his volume disappeared too. Again, are you still there with us, Jason, volume-wise?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How about you, Andrew?
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, good. Well, let's get started then. We always like to start at the beginning. Let's start. We'll start with Jason. And at the beginning, I'd just like to know give us a snapshot. You don't have to give us the 10-minute version. Give us a snapshot of your sailing history and how you came into the sailing industry, what you do.
Yeah, okay. I started sailing when I was about, probably 2 or 3 years old with my father. And once I got old enough to sail Optimus, so he put me into one of those, and basically from Optimus to P class, which is what you see there on the screen. That's basically a New Zealand dinghy. It's kind of the boat that every Kiwi sailed. The age of sailing that boat is from around 10 or 11 years old through to 15. Mm-hmm. And then from that boat into double-handed dinghies like 470s, laser 2s, and then straight into bigger boats. So yeah, I came over here when I was about 22 years old to work with Quantum, and from that point on I've been sailing with all of the local teams and throughout the country.
Mm-hmm. Great. How about you, Andrew? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your sailing history.
Yeah, thanks. I'd be happy to. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Jason. Today is actually 25 years that he's been working for Quantum Sales. So
Wow.
quite an
Well, cheers to
achievement.
that. Congratulations, Jason. That's pretty
Thank
cool.
you. Yeah, thanks,
You
Andrew.
don't seem old enough. You
And,
don't seem
and
old
I
enough.
was not teed up for that. I just want, that's genuine. Yeah. So my background is sailing from a very, very young age as well, probably around about 6 or 7. Again, influenced by my dad, and my dad taught me, and sailed a lot of the dinghies coming through. I didn't do opties. Dad kind of chucked me straight into a laser and moved along from there. Did 420s, did some 505 stuff, and other dinghies as I moved into keel boats. And I really got into the industry quite quickly. From the time that I was 18, I was pretty much in the industry as a sailing instructor, and then worked my way up to being a captain on private charter vessels throughout the world and doing deliveries, and found myself in the Caribbean for over 20 years in various capacities in the industry as well. All the while doing a load of racing. And then Doug Stewart, one of our designers at Quantum, approached me and gave me an opportunity to come and join the Quantum Group up here in Annapolis about, it'll be 8 years ago, at the turn of the year. And I've been with them ever since. And a bit like Jason, you move around all of the local groups and around the country. So yeah, loving it and loving my new life in America.
So for anyone who is watching this program who maybe, isn't really familiar with what a sailmaker does, they might have an image of you in a sail off with a sewing needle in your hand. Can you explain a little bit about what it is you do, or how sailmakers aren't always just making sails? There are a lot of different aspects to it, and I thought maybe you guys could expand upon that a little bit. Can we start with you, Jason?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm a sailmaker by trade. I did an apprenticeship in New Zealand. I started in 1992, worked for 4 years through the apprenticeship program, finished in 96. I was lucky because I worked for a small company where I could build a sail from the beginning to the end. And by doing that, you learn so much. The unfortunate thing now is apprenticeship programs in America really don't exist because every sailmaker is basically building their sails offshore. So for anyone wanting to get into it, it's still possible, but in terms of learning how to build a sail from beginning to the end, it's not existing anymore. So for us, for what Andrew and I are doing, for me, I'm a sailmaker by trade, but I'm now in sales, and we both are. And, it's a whole different branch of the industry, and there's lots to do. We deal face-to-face with customers daily, which is a lot of fun. We race with different clients locally and nationally in different events. The industry, even though we're not exactly building sails here in America anymore, there's still plenty going on and a lot of opportunities left.
Great. Andrew, I'm going to ask you to, you can expand upon anything that Jason has mentioned, but I also was going to ask if you would comment on the sailing with your clients aspect, because that is sort of there's some coaching involved there, or really a chance to teach them about what you know. And that to me, I think is interesting, to this conversation, because it speaks to, you can actually really be an expert on how to help them make their boat go faster. So you talk a little bit about sailing with your clients and what you get out of that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really quite a fun aspect of it. Whether it be racing or whether it just being face to face with a client and finding out what their needs are, and working through those needs and giving them what they want with your input is great fun. And then the coaching side of stuff that really is something that I enjoy. You get to sail with clients who come with various and varying levels of competence, and you sort of establish that. And it's quite good fun learning what they know and what they want to achieve, and trying to set some goals and benchmarks and achieving them for them. And it doesn't have to be all the way to the very top. Goals can be met by completing a task or a race or a championship. So it's quite nice to be able to work closely with the owners of the boats, and then the people who are on the boat, and you build some very good relationships. So it is a fun aspect. It's a little bit different to what you probably, myself and Jason have been in our own programs and our own boats and that sort of stuff. So it's a little bit different, but you sort of step into somebody else's world or somebody else's objective world, and you help them meet goals, and it's fun to do it, providing you can, and when you do, it's quite rewarding.
Do you have anything to add to that, Jason, before I move on from there?
No, I think like Andrew said, we're involved a lot of the time with a bunch of different programs, and you do meet a lot of good owners and a lot of good people on board these teams, and it's rewarding. You bring these teams together. You as a sailmaker, you end up a lot of the time being the leader of the program, and it's rewarding. Just bringing the team up to the next level.
Great. I see we already have a couple questions coming in from the audience. I just want you guys to know we're watching your questions. I have a couple more things that I'd like to ask Jason and Andrew, and we'll address all of your questions. The only one I'm going to address right now is from the Eastport Oyster Boys, and I want to say that you're late. You're late. We already discussed rum, and we're all having a drink. So make sure you're drinking some Mount Gay rum, and we'll bring it back a little bit later, and then we'll talk about sailing. So thanks for tuning in. We love having you here. We love the Oyster Boys. Let's talk a little bit about sail trim. What are some of the most common questions people ask you, your customers ask you about sail trim? This could be racers or cruisers. Either one of you want to answer that one first?
You want to go first, Jace?
Yeah, sure. I think I would say one of the biggest ones is halyard tension. The halyard tension on both the mainsail and the head sail is such a massive contributing factor to changing the shape of the sail. So, and especially when the sail is brand new. Basically, an inch or two of halyard tension is going to change the shape of the sail dramatically.
And for anyone who doesn't speak New Zealand, he said halyard tension.
Thanks, Molly.
You're welcome.
But and it's the same for cruising boats. When we put cruising sails on any boat, a Beneteau, Jeanneau, whatever, it's not just put the sail up and lock the halyard off and be done with it. It is a gear, and it should be used more often than it is not. And so, again, it changes the overall shape of the sail a lot. So less halyard on a light day, more halyard on a windy day, pull the wrinkles out.
Yeah, I know very few cruisers who have ever thought of halyard tension as a sail control.
Yep. Yeah. It's a big gear, definitely a big gear.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll jump into the other end of the sail, that where you've got sheet tension and perhaps lead control as well. They're two very important factors as well. Probably equally as important on a cruising boat as it on a racing boat. Being able to adjust the lead position of the genoa or the jib car is an ability to either power up or depower the sail. If you find that you're being a little bit overpowered and you need to depower a little bit, then if you have the ability to bring the car back just a little bit, you're going to flatten out the foot, twist out the head, and it changes the shape of the sail. And it should be done whether you're cruising or whether you're racing, but it's probably those two, the halyard that Jason's talking about and that lead position, if you can adjust it, are two big changes to a sail shape.
Yeah. in years of reading articles from Dave Flynn, I feel like there's one mantra I hear over and over again. In so many words, he said, "Please don't set it and forget it." that it's always a work in progress, all of it, right? And so the wind keeps changing. You have to keep changing. So great. Let's talk about winning racing teams. I always like to know what you think the top observations you have whenever you're sailing with a team and you think, man, these guys are good, or you've watched them improve. What are some of the qualities that they have that make them stand out?
I mean, you look at the top teams, and on bigger boats, it's always the same group of people. So like it's like any team. It doesn't matter what sport it is. You got to have the same group. And so, with sailing, it's hard to keep that continuity going, but it's super important. And you got to have the same people, and you'll only get better and better by continuing sailing together. So that would be one of the factors for me in terms of racing teams. Andrew, what do you got on that one?
Yeah, I think I don't use this rule of thumb, but I've just sort of thought about it now. But if you can roll it into 3 P's, right? So it's preparation, practice, and people. And if you prepare correctly, be that prepare the boat, prepare the program, prepare the sails, and everything related to the equipment, and then you practice with that equipment, and you put the right people into the program, that's what the top teams are doing over and over and again, because they can repeat that cycle, and practice gives them a baseline to go to in any given conditions. And that is a winning formula. It's almost like you can turn up to a regatta knowing if everything goes just normally, you're probably in a really good shout of winning it, just by preparation, practice, and having the right people.
Yeah, we used to. I know when the Screw Pile Regatta, we used to do a daily news at the Screw Pile, and we'd take turns distributing it early in the morning. So here had been this crazy party the night before, and we're up at 6:45 in the morning distributing the magazines around, so that when people came out for breakfast, that they got their daily news from the day before. But I remember distinctly, and it was my first sort of exposure to this, that early in the morning, the guys you would see, and the women you would see who are up, were the winning crews. They were up and they were headed to the boat to prepare. And it was they got up early, they had breakfast, they'd read their paper, and they were headed down to the boat. And I always thought it was sort of like they were the prepared ones. They were the ones who were up early and hours before they needed to be out to the race course.
I love reading personalities' biographies, but particular sports people, and the successful ones always talk about they put the most practice on the kicking tee, or whatever it is. They're the last ones on the practice fields and the first ones onto it. So it does pay off. There's no question. I wish with a lot of our programs, I'm sure Jason would say the same thing, that time is something with our clients and with our groups that sometimes is hard to find. And finding that time is really important to the results.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, the only thing, one thing I'll add there, Molly, is
Sure.
each person needs to own their position on the boat as well. So even though it's a team sport, it's also a bit of an individual sport as well, in that we all have our positions on board the boat, and we all have to own that position. So whether you're the tactician, the driver, the guy and the girl in the pit, whether you're on the bow, you've got to own that area of the boat and just make sure that it's all prepared. And when each person takes that responsibility on, it comes together and gels as a team.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to the other side of the spectrum. And teams that and this could be, you're on one boat and you're witnessing another boat across the race course do something. Is there anything that you witness teams do over and over again that are slowing them down, and you just see it and go, oh, I wish they wouldn't do that. But you could see it slowing them down there. Anything come to mind on that one?
Going to the wrong mark, Andrew. It's screw pile. Come on, mate. You got to come back to me on that.
I don't know. Did you go to the wrong mark, or did I go to the wrong mark? I can't remember.
No,
Hitting crab pots not very quick.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
Crab pots don't help.
Crab pots aren't fast. I think when you look at groups that are, it's harsh to put people into a group that you see them as sort of the perpetual guys at the back of the fleet. But I really do believe that our sport is something that if you don't have to, it's an expensive sport. You can't get around that. But you don't necessarily have to buy your way up the leaderboard. I think with dedication and asking the right questions, you don't always have to be that guy always at the back. But I do really believe in trying very hard to sail consistently and improve on what you did one race over the other. So the really obvious aspects of that is at the end of a race, have a talk about what you did well and what you didn't do very well, and try to do the less well things less often, and try to do the things that you did well more often. And it starts from the start, literally. If you can find out a way to start the boat which works for you, you've almost got 30% of the job done. And then if you can work out a way to hang on to that up the first beat, you've done half the job, because after that, the second lap becomes a lot easier. So it's trying to just get a formula together which brings you further up the group of people that you're racing against more consistently. So it's hard to say that there's always the same group at the back, because I feel like if there is always the same group at the back, they're not asking the right questions, or they're not trying to change what they're doing. And by asking people like Jason or myself, if you find us, we're always there, and we'll always be willing to talk to you about certain scenarios. But asking the right questions, I think, will help anybody who's struggling a little bit.
I guess one of the things I was fishing for was something more specific. Like, I'll look at a boat sometimes and think, oh my gosh, if you just eased your mainsail a little bit, you could make it so much easier for yourself right now. And I'm not any sort of an expert on sail trim, but I witness stuff like that every once in a while and think, I want to help you.
And to add to that, Molly, I would say the lack of gear changing, so when the breeze is up and down, the trimmers have got to be constantly trimming the sails, and that could be halyard tension, that could be sheet tension, that could be traveler placement, that could be car placement on the head sail. There's so many little gear changes that help the boat continue to power through these modings. And so that, and also crew placement, whether it's fore and aft or weight inboard in the lulls, it is all such a major factor of how the boat performs. And it doesn't matter what kind of boat it is, it's critical to the performance of the boat. And so, for us, when we see that, like your question is, you see it from another boat and you see them, and there could be too much weight aft. It's like, it's going to be easy to get by that boat because they're just not doing things right. So, it's basically called gear changing, and it involves crew placement and sail trimming.
So it's actually, there's two things to add to Jason's. You're probably either over-sheeted or you're not sheeted in enough. The not being sheeted in enough is really easy to see, because the sail it'll be luffing. So the harder one to recognize is being over-sheeted. because the sail looks like it's flat and it's drawing quite well, but you literally could be choking the airflow out of the sail. And I'm sure Dave Flynn's probably come up with this one as well. But if in doubt, let it out, and quite literally just ease the sheets or ease everything and just let the boat free up just a little bit, and see what happens, because it's either over cheated or it's under sheeted, one or the other. So yeah, fiddle with it. But again, back to practice time. If you've got another boat that you can go out with and practice with, you can learn a lot of this and don't have to suffer on the race course. You can learn it before you go out there.
So we have a couple of questions I think we should address. Maybe we can start with Greg Guthman's observation and then his question. His observation seems like cruisers and cruising sails are an afterthought for most sail-offs. What do you guys have to say to that?
I'll answer that one if you don't mind. Definitely not, 100% not. I mean, every sailmaker in the world builds more sails for cruising boats than racing boats. And it's simply because there's more cruising boats in the world. But, you know, it's hard for us at Quantum because I think we're portrayed as a racing sailmaker, but we're not. We're not at all. We build more cruising sails than racing sails. And in all honesty, we support our cruisers very, very well. And, you know, we'll go sailing with them upon installing the new sail. We'll give them trim tips, techniques, how to make the boat perform better. But yeah, it's always a concern of ours internally that, you know, for us personally, portrayed as a racing sailmaker, but we're not. We're far from it.
And Greg also had a comment based on the halyard tension conversation. You can't adjust the tension with in masts mains.
Well, if it has a halyard, yeah, you can. Just simply use the halyard. It's the same halyard system as a standard mainsail. It plates onto the boom. So yeah, there's no Cunningham. Most cruising boats don't have Cunninghams. So yeah, just simply use your halyard, and that will push, by easing it, that will push draft into the sail, and vice versa. Tension in it will flatten the sail out.
And Greg, next time you're in Eastport, you got to stop by and say hi to Jason at the new Quantum Loft there.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Robert Richardson, let's pop his question up there. Thoughts on fully or partial batten sails? You want to answer that one, Andrew?
Yeah, sure. They both actually have their merit. I suppose it's based on the application that you're looking to achieve. The fully battened mainsail adds quite a lot of longevity to the sail, because the battens stop the sail from doing a lot of its sort of flogging and deteriorating of itself. The downside a little bit to the full batten aspect is you sort of develop a shape by having that full batten aspect to it. Whereas with the partial battens, you can introduce different sail shapes through the halyard, through the outhaul tension, that sort of stuff. So I would say that the trade-off really is whether you want to be able to have a fluid sail shape that you can adjust quite a lot, or if you're looking for something which is a little bit more permanent and it will give you durability and longevity.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to that, Jason?
No, Andrew nailed it. Perfect.
You can actually do a mixture of the two as well. So on the mainsails, we often will put one full batten at the head, which will stabilize the head quite a little bit. And then you can have, depending on the size of the boat, but you can have some mid-length battens as well. Or you can do two full at the top and two shorter length battens. So there's combinations as well. But, you know, speak to me or Jason, and we'll be happily go through it all with you. But that's really the difference.
Okay. So Tony Hausner asked a question here, and it's kind of a broad question, but maybe you guys can address it. What recent features about sailboats and sailing are most useful to know? recent is the interesting part of that. It's kind of a broad question, but does anything pop to mind for you guys there?
Like autopilots?
Autopilot.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the question really. Recent features about sailboats.
Tony, if
Is
you
Tony
want to,
talking about the sails specifically, or
I mean,
hull shapes, or?
the one thing that springs to mind for me is the design of the boats have changed dramatically from, you know, cruising boats that were designed in the 80s and 90s have changed massively into the 2000s and where we are today. You know, the boats themselves have become way more wider with more form stability and more room down below, but I'm not sure I'm answering the question for him. But yeah, the other thing is to add to that is the use of code zeros, where they're becoming really, really popular. You know, they
for anyone who doesn't know, can you describe what a code zero is?
Yeah, so the code zero was developed in the late 90s they actually came about from the Volvo or the Whitbread race in 98. And it's basically a cross between an asymmetric spinnaker and a genoa. And so the beauty of them is you can put them on a furler, and yet a lot of the time they're double the size of your head sail, your genoa. And so they add so much power to any boat, whether it's racing or cruising, for reaching conditions. And you can get downwind with these sails, but not downwind like a spinnaker. But what's happened is they've trickled into the cruising sailing community, and they've become so popular because of the ease of use. And so, you know, if you can roll up a big cruising reaching sail like that, it's just that much easier for sail handling, especially if you're short-handed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Tony, if you have a more pointed question to ask, we might have a minute to answer it, and feel free to put that into the comments. I'm just going to keep moving because we're going to run out of time here eventually. Let's just talk about, of course, you guys sell sails, so obviously, you know, sometimes you think the answer to the question is you need new sails on your boat to go faster. So I'm going to ask you, besides buying new sails, what are a few things you think all teams can do to increase their speed a little bit? That could be clean the bottom of the boat. I mean, it can be anything. Yeah, and you can even reiterate something you've already said.
Yeah, I think you can get really technical with it, and you can go into rig tensions and sort of rig tuning, which is a fairly powerful tool, and understanding the different shapes that you can get out of a mast, to that it's influenced by wind conditions or wave conditions, but learning that aspect of it, it can be a lot more primitive in making sure that the underside of the boat, the bit that's in the water, is well looked after as well. And that might be making sure before you go sailing that someone's swam on the bottom of the boat and got whatever crud's on there off it. You know, it can be the next level from there, in making sure that if you do keep the boat in the water, that before you put it in the water, you've got as smooth a bum as you can get. Or the next level, don't put it in the water and keep it out of it. So there's lots of different ways, but I think when you look at what you have on a boat outside of sails, they are probably actually there's a third one, but the bottom of the boat, the rig, and keeping as much weight off the boat as you possibly can. So be really, really stingy on what equipment you need on board. I promise you, when I get on board the boat, you can think that you've taken everything off it. I will find more, and Jason will as well. So be really, really critical about what you actually need on board the boat. So those I would say are like the three main things.
Mm-hmm. Jason, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, Andrew touched on it, but the bottom of the boat is critical. And so, you know, whether you dry sail your boat or you keep it in a marina, Yeah, it's got to be perfect. You know, if the boat's sitting on a trailer, that you're still got to clean the bottom. Okay, before the boat gets put in the water, there's still going to be dirt that's accumulated onto the bottom of the boat, just from sitting on the, you know, in the yard, or whether it's being trailered to the venue. It's got to be fully cleaned down, fully soaked down while it's hanging in the hoist. And for a boat that's kept in the marina, then have it dived on before the regatta and during the regatta. But you know, we've talked about this internally, heaps of teams, and it's basically proven that the bottom of the boat is more important than anything else. So yeah, it's just got to be. And the thing is, it gives you peace of mind for the crew, for the tactician, knowing that the bottom of the boat is perfect is super important, and it comes down to that peace of mind on the race.
I want to ask one more question before I find out what you guys are doing over the winter and what's on your sailing calendar. But we talked a bit about preparation, being a prepared team. We talked a little bit about having consistent crew and how that is really important to have the same people on the boat who are owning their job on the racing boat. I want to talk a little bit about what you mentioned in the center, the practice part. When you're encouraging teams to get out there and practice, or you're out there practicing with them, what maneuvers are most important that they practice over and over to get them down in different conditions? Which ones come to mind anyway?
Who's starting? Me?
Yeah, you go ahead and start.
Okay.
I'm sure you and Andrew both have something to say there.
Well, it depends on the team. It depends how long you've all sailed together. So, and it depends on the weaknesses of the team. But, you know, I mean, starting practice, you know, work on starting, work on time and distance, corners, mark roundings, any maneuver that involves the entire team, that's more than likely going to be a mark rounding, top mark, bottom mark, you know, sets, jibes, jibe set. Yeah, we could talk about this till midnight, but it comes down to the amount of time that the team sailed together, and then you'll realize where the weaknesses are that you got to focus on.
Andrew, do you have anything to add?
I do. Just a quick one on that. Once you've done those individual practices, I really like to go out and quite literally simulate the race course and do quite literally 2 laps. Start, tack, 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 round the windward mark, jibe, 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 round the leeward mark, tack, 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 and then back down to the fish, and literally simulate and get a feel for the race course. And you know, you put the individuals together and the individual maneuvers together, and then with the doing the race lap, everybody sort of feels like they've got a better understanding of where they're going to be when it really comes down. I'd probably practice doing some 360s if I was going against Jason as well, just in case.
All right, we have one last question here. We're getting toward last call, so let's go ahead and pop William Mongrain's question up there. What are your thoughts on one design, single-handed boats such as a laser, which they call the Ilka these days?
Oh, mate, I love lasers. I sailed lasers a lot back in the day. You know, sailed down at SSA. It's been a long time. I think I stopped sailing lasers in 2005 after my daughter was born, but it's such a good boat, and it's such a good way to learn how to sail. And it's one design. Every boat's exactly the same. So yeah, you sail one of those boats and your learning curve is basically vertical. And yeah, it teaches you so much, whether it's windy, light air, you know, you make one mistake and you're going to be swimming. So yeah, the nice thing is SSA down the road, and there's a good fleet of them, and yeah.
Yeah, they have a tremendous fleet. And, you know, on a cold winter day, you look out off the Naval Academy, and who's out there racing?
Yeah.
The lasers.
Every Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're crazy. How about you, Andrew? Do you have any experience in that type of boat or other?
Yeah,
small-
I do. Same as Jason. You know, some of the fondest days sailing and racing is in a laser. But you know, one design of any nature is sailing and racing in its rawest form. You know, and it really does give you the sense of where you are in terms of your competition, and it's I'm a great advocate for it, and I love sailing any form of one design. I recognize that, you know, that there's many formats of it, but the single-handedness of a little dinghy like a laser it's really great, because it's whatever you put into it is your reward or your demise, you know. So it's great.
Andrew, do you have anything on your winter sailing calendar? What's coming up in your life, your sailing life?
There was a busy winter program coming up, but one thing or another has hindered that. So I'm actually looking forward to a fairly quiet winter at home, and yeah, not a great deal going on. A few things popped up in my life, which is going to keep me at home for a little bit, and that's just fine. So quiet winter for me.
All right. Well, maybe someone in the laser fleet will lend you their boat for the day, and you can go out and freeze your hiney off with the rest of them. Yeah. How about you, Jason? Do you have anything happening in your winter sailing calendar?
Not so much the winter. I've had a busy year, so I'm looking forward to some time at home, like Andrew mentioned. Yeah, you kind of actually look forward to a bit of downtime, and so it's nice throughout these next couple of months. But the schedule for next year is already starting to build, so it's going to be a busy one again. But yeah, we'll just make the most of the next few months.
That's great. And I knew that Quantum was hiring. I wanted to ask you if you are still hiring, if you want to put in a little promo for that. If you are, go right ahead.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you. We are always on the hunt for sailmakers. We are both in Annapolis and also nationally at our various lofts. We are looking for a receptionist here in Annapolis. So yeah, if anyone's interested in that type of job, it would be great. Having a bit of sailing experience would be key to that position. But yeah, no, we are continually looking for people.
And what's your email address? J Currie at
jcurrie@quantumsales.com.
jcurrie@quantumsales.com. And of course, if you don't write that down, feel free to. You can always shoot a note over to editor@spinsheet.com, and I'm happy to connect you to Jason or whoever Jason would like me to connect you to. So, well, guys, we are out of time. So let's. We have Sharb is gonna pop back on here. What do we have, Sharb? We're gonna say thank you to Jason and Andrew, and you guys have been great. I've learned a lot in talking to you, and you reiterated some stuff that I kind of knew, but it's always good to talk about it, and I think that our listeners get a lot out of it too. So I appreciate you taking the time on a cold Friday night to come talk to us, and happy holidays to you. Enjoy the downtime while it lasts.
Yes.
Cheers.
And if you want to stick around for a little party in the green room, we're going to be here after the show. So
that's right. Stick around. But thank you guys. Really appreciate it. I'm going to throw you guys into the green room right now. And a big thank you to everybody that tuned in. We actually had a huge crowd tonight, both tuning in from Facebook and YouTube. So thanks very much for doing that. Before we go, we got to do our red hat pictures.
We got a couple red hat photos of the month.
Yeah. Boom, boom.
This we might have actually used before, but I love this photo so much. That's Eunice Lynn, who sails out of Harrington Harbor, and her crew on her Alarian. And, they're winning in more reasons than one, but they're all wearing their Mount Gay Realm hats, which we love. So that one I popped up on Facebook recently. And then we have this, I believe the name is Gene Rankin, and someone said it was his what was that movie? No,
I was going to say, it's like
Weekend at Bernie's. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for sending that picture, Gene.
I'm glad I'm the only one that thought that.
The next one was Mike. Oh, no, that's Jack. See,
Jack.
See
I hope you're
Jack.
still
Hi,
active.
Jack. I know he was on here tonight, but that's Jack Regan. And that picture is not the clearest picture that's ever been sent to us, but we gotta love Jack. He's a huge fan of the SpinSheet Happy Hour. He's a SpinSheet Racing Team member. He's a SpinSheet Century Club member. Sails with Valhalla Sailing, and we love you, Jack. Thanks for sending a picture. And then there was one more that's actually a nice one on a boat. And remind me who sent that. Was it his last name? Is it Smith? Oh, darn.
You're going to ask me.
Darn. Well, I named the photo file after his name, and I thought you might have that in front of you.
No, I'm sorry.
Darn, I think it's. Well, thank you to that very nice guy who sent me that picture, and I think his name might have been Mike Smith. If you had a more unusual name, I might remember it. But anyway, so we had a bunch of Red Hat photos of the month because we kind of forgot last month, so we're making up for it. If anyone ever has a fun Red Hat photo, it can be a selfie, it can be at a regatta party, it can be on a boat. Feel free to send it over to editor at spinsheet.com because I run out of my Red Hat photos every once in a while, so we always need more. And I think we have a cocktail of the month too. You want to show us that?
We have the continuing cocktail of the month.
It's so good. It's so good. We're going to show it to you.
If you haven't made this, please go ahead and make it. But before I put it on, I'm just we're gonna sign off with the video. So before we leave, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you Mount Gay for sponsoring this. Without either of you, we can't do these things. So we like doing them, and we're glad people are tuning in, and we're glad companies like Mount Gay are sponsoring it. So Molly, I'll meet you in the green room. And
have a great weekend, everybody.
Have a great weekend.
Hey, what's up everyone? Thanks for having me. My name is Dominic Alling. I'm the National Brand Ambassador for Mount Gay Rum. Today I'm going to make you a Black Barrel Daiquiri with our Mount Gay Black Barrel. This is a 3 to 7 year old rum that sees an additional 6 months of aging in heavily charred bourbon barrels. This daiquiri is super easy to make, and all ingredients you should have readily available at your house, including a bottle of Mount Gay Black Barrel, like I said. I've also went ahead and squeezed some fresh lime juice, so we'll add an ounce of that. Building this all in my shaker, which I will then shake and add ice and shake and put into my cocktail glass. And to finish it off, I'm adding a little bit of simple syrup. So this is a ½ ounce of simple syrup. It's essentially just sugar and water. I do a 1-to-1 ratio, sugar to water. Bring that up to a boil, let it cool off, then add it to my drink. Like I said already, we're gonna add some ice to this cocktail. So I don't recommend using your hands unless you're making it for yourself. You know, try to be sanitary. But since I'm the one that's gonna be drinking this drink, I'm using my hands. And then we're just gonna shake this. So I have a 2-piece shaker. Works for me, gets the trick done. I've added ice, I have all my ingredients. I'm gonna give this a good shake. Okay. Then I'll just drain that out into my glass. You do have the option here to add fruit if you'd like. First start off by learning the classics though before you get ahead of yourself. And there you have it, your Mount Gay Rum Black Barrel Daiquiri. Enjoy.